So another thing I find really exciting and unique about Rav Shagar's writings is he's just so unapologetic in his honesty, and he really can criticize, religious Torah interpretations that other rabbis have given throughout the generations, but it doesn't feel like he's insulting them so much as he's in dialogue with them. So, like, what do you think it is like about Rav Shagar that he can much criticize, an idea that Chazal wrote, and he says it's just not relevant. That can't fit with how people feel today. But it doesn't ever feel like he's mizalzel, like he's putting them down.
Well, I think criticize is really the wrong word. That he evaluates various opinions and ideas from various sources, not based on is the idea inherently true in some ultimate sense. It says, if I were to take that idea and apply it to my life today, and if I try and believe that's true, does it require me to deny reality? That he doesn't say, oh, they were lying to themselves. He says, I would be lying to myself if I said it today. A good example is Rav Kook talked a lot about what he called holy freedom. That if a Jew really is true to who they are and acts based on their innermost self, they will naturally keep Torah and mitzvot. And Rav Shagar really criticizes Rav Kook's students and the students of Rav Kook's students for saying the same thing Rav Kook said. He says, when Rav Kook said it, Rav Kook was being true to himself and his experience of the world. But when you say it today, it requires denying the Jews we see around us, if not ourselves. So it was fine when Rav Kook said it, but it's a criticism of people today who say it, and that saying it would be a lie today.
Right. I would add something kind of that he says in one of his drashot, one of his essays, that to deny who you are is in many ways like a denial of emunah, like faith, because for Rav Shagar, I get this very strong feeling like the search for spirituality goes hand in hand with honesty, and so to like be naive and to say it just works for everybody, or it's a good idea, it's almost like you're being less religious if you justify a religious view. Can you talk a little about like why do you think Rav Shagar thinks honesty is such a religious value? Even if it means,
Well, I'm not sure I can say why he thinks it's a religious value, but he has a very strong sense that the world as we encounter it, both outside ourselves and the things we simply encounter within ourselves, should be taken as divine providence, that God made the world that we live in a very strong sense. So when you encounter a world where Jews don't inherently follow Torah and mitzvot when they are true to themselves, or when you yourself feel like I keep Torah and mitzvot as a conscious choice of who I want to be rather than simply accepting who I am, that what you're doing is really accepting the world as God made it. And there's a sense of kabbalat omuchut shemayim, of accepting the yoke of heaven, taking what God gave you and working with that, rather than denying what God did.
So it's a sense of hashgacha pratit, like if I really believe that God is running the world, my emotions, my thoughts, they also come from God. So to deny that feeling inside of me would be in many ways like a denial of my religious beliefs.
Absolutely. As well as, even if you wanted to say the things inside me are not hashgacha pratit, he would say very strongly the world around you is hashgacha pratit, and the world you're responding to is hashgacha pratit, and so you have to respond honestly to that.
I think that's actually, when it comes down to it, one of the most attractive qualities. Like I would say for people who want to read Rav Shagar, you'll get this, it just continues to run over again. Any idea, it doesn't matter if it's talking about Hanukkah, Yom Ha'atzmaut, Yom Yerushalayim, Pesach. He just looks at these ancient Jewish sources and he just brings this very, I don't want to say modern, because it's really not about modern, not just because he's postmodern, but it's not about modern or postmodern. It's about, he's just bringing himself, his real feelings, his real mind to the text, and doesn't feel embarrassed. He doesn't feel like it's less religious, and it's very fresh.